Yo, what is up, guys? All right, so I got a DPS tier list for you. So we did our Mythic Plus tier list last week. You guys were super great with the feedback. Some of you guys agreed with me, some of you guys didn't. So I want the same thing to happen here. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree with me. If you don't, we're going to be focusing on normal and heroic, not mythic rating at all. But it's just going to be a DPS tier list based off of what I think and the Warcraft logs. I'm seriously curious about what you guys think. I think there's some specs that are really shining and some specs that definitely need some more love. But you can probably play just about anything, especially if if you're with a guild raid like that. Might be a little hard to get pug groups if you're a couple of these specs right now, just because they fall behind pretty considerably. But we'll get into that here in just a minute. So seriously, let me know what you guys think. Thank you again for so much love for the Mythic Plus tier list. It means a lot to me. We'll do DPS today, and then we'll hit heals and tanks on another tier list here soon. So I'm in the middle of moving right now, so probably will be here in the next week or so if I can, if we get internet set up. So let's jump right into it. Okay, let's do Windwalker Monk first. I think Windwalker Monk is high 8s here. Oh, and just to clarify too, if they're higher on this, let's say I put Unholy in A tier. If they're higher, closer to A, they're higher than, so Windwalker would be higher than Unholy, if that makes sense. If they're closer to the A, closer to B, or whatever, then they're the highest in that tier list. So, Windwalker Monk, though, I think it's in high A tier. It gives, obviously, that physical damage buff. They got great mobility. They can switch between AoE. They got cleave. Single target's actually really good compared to Shadowlands. They're actually doing a great job, kind of shining above a lot of other classes, which, is cool to see. So yeah, I think they're really good utility, good mobility, bringing a lot there. I want to make this quick for you guys, so we'll burn through this. Let's go through the rogue specs next. They're all phenomenal. Okay, so they're doing great, both normal, heroic, and even in mythic. I know we're not talking about mythic, but they're shining in all three. You could literally play all three specs right now. I think probably Assassination would be the highest of the three rogue specs. I'd probably put Outlaw and then Sub last. Outlaw does a great job with cleave, AoE fights. Even Assassination does too. Sub not so much, but they're all very viable. Great damage, obviously great utility, mobility. Kind of ignore mechanics with cloak, but they're doing they're doing a great job. So super good time to be a rogue, per usual. But they're killing it. Let's do hunters next. Marksmanship. I think they are S tier. If you look at Warcraft logs in the 90th percentile for normal and heroic, they're doing really good. I think they're probably lower S tier or high A, maybe above Windwalker Monk. I'm gonna put them low S for now, but we might adjust at the end of this. But they're doing really good. Solid damage. Obviously, great mobility. Can move for mechanics. Do everything that they need to do. And I mean, they're OP. They're doing fantastic. So let's go Beast Mastery next. I think they're probably mid to low B tier right now. I think they still bring some of the same things a hunter brings. They can move around, mechanics they can kind of ignore. Very simple spec to play, fun spec to play though. But they're falling behind for sure. I think they might even be high C, low B, high C, low B, somewhere in that area. Let's see here, survival, they're D. They've fallen behind so much. They're one of the worst specs right now for single target and AoE. If you guys watch my Mythic Plus tier list, they are not doing so good right now. Hopefully we'll see that change in the future. I think they're super fun, interesting spec to play, got a great niche. And they can still move around, a little less flexibility I think than you have for marksmanship and beast mastery, but still a solid spec. They need some love for sure. So let's do warlocks next. Okay, so this is a pretty interesting one. For once, I think from the Warcraft logs and from what I've seen personally, Affliction is doing better than Destruction, which is pretty wild. At least DPS wise, every DPS I've seen for Warlocks in this last couple weeks, Affliction's been beating Destruction out almost every single time. I would say Affliction's still not in a great spot. They're better, especially since the buffs they received. Destruction's struggling. I think it is even lower than Survival right now, and Affliction is probably right there with Beast Mastery. I think lower though than Beast Mastery for sure. But they bring gates, hellstones, obviously like that. They're very tanky, but they really get outshined by their other class, Demonology Warlock. Demonology Warlock is pretty insane. Not as insane as in Shadowlands, because obviously you guys know they were top of every chart. Kind of unreal. Again, they bring Gateway Soulstones. They're super tanky, even more tanky than Affliction and Destruction Warlocks. I would not say they're A tier. If they are, they're super low A tier, probably high B tier. Still are very viable. If you bring a Warlock, you're probably bringing Demonology Warlock for sure. Next, let's do Shamans. Shamans are in a really good spot. I love that Enhance is doing so freaking well right now. Enhance is A tier or S tier. Or low S tier. Low S tier, maybe high A tier. But I think that we'll put them high A tier for now. I think that Windwalker Monk Windwalker Monk and Enhanced Shamans are right next to each other right now. They do a fantastic job. Wind Fury Totem, obviously, for melee. They do great damage, though. Very consistent on the charts, especially for normal and heroic, 90th percentile. They're fun to play. They're engaging. Just a really good spec. I think they're high A tier, low S right now, for sure. And if you guys check out Warcraft logs, you'll see the same thing. They're doing great DPS. And everything that I've seen in the rating damage in general for the last couple weeks is enhancements popping. Okay, so I think Elemental falls a little behind. I still think they're very viable. I think they're right around Demonology Warlock. You can probably keep those about the same. Probably, I think Demonology kind of shines a little bit more than Elemental. But Elemental doesn't quite bring as much as Enhance, I think, just for the Wind Fury Totem purpose. But they are a very solid class, very consistent damage, super fun to play. Range to certain fights that'll really help you out in, for sure. But they're still very viable. They're just not pumping out the same numbers as Enhance, I think. I think that's for a few factors, but class design's great, in a solid spot for sure. Havoc Demon Hunter. I think this spec is actually falling off a little bit. Right now, I've played with quite a bit of Havoc Demon Hunters, but obviously they're helping out. They're giving us the raid buff here. They're more damage. I don't think they're as good of a spot as they were. If you look at Warcraft logs, they're definitely falling behind, kind of mid-tier B-ish area. I do think if you have a good Havoc Demon Hunter, I think they'll shine more than some other specs for sure. But not in a fantastic spot compared to where they were. You might even, might argue they'd be higher, but you could argue that for everybody. If someone who really knows their class and their spec, they could, even though this is the tier list, someone could play a spec really well and they could do better than, an Affliction Warlock could do better than Enhancement Shaman. I doubt it, but they could. If you're really good at your spec, it really does matter. But I would say Havoc Demon Hunter right now is somewhere in B tier, at least for normal and heroic. That could change for Mythic. It might. I don't know. The nerfs really took a toll on them for sure. At least we're seeing that in the raid. But still, solid spec, super fun to play, great mobility, raid buff damage. So they're still in a good spot. Next spot, let's do our next class. Let's do mages. Arcane Mage, I think they're doing really good, especially normal and heroic. They're shining. I mean, probably low S tier, maybe high. They're right around here. I think they might even be higher than Enhance. They're high A tier, low S, especially for normal and heroic. They fall off a little bit in Mythic. I know you saw that with Liquid, and you saw them playing it, but that's just because they're top level, top 0.1% players. They're fantastic. They know their stuff. Coordinates well, ultra time. There's a lot of things that mages bring, and obviously they saw that. But Arcane Mage is still shining, still doing really well. High A tier, low S tier, fantastic spot. Some could argue that they're even higher, maybe higher than Marks. I don't think they're higher than Rogues. I think Rogues are shining. If you look at Warcraft logs, I think some of the DPS rankings in normal actually show that Arcane's above some of those Rogue specs, but in heroic they fall down. I'll say they're above Marksman. They're right around here. So lower S, but still in a fantastic spot. Much better than the other mage specs. The other mage specs are struggling. So I'm gonna say, yeah, Frost and Fire might be the worst specs in the game. I think they are slightly above Destruction right now. I think Frost being higher than Fire. Fire obviously received buffs, so did Frost, but they're struggling right now for sure. I think they're in the lower specs. I think Survival is actually better than them, which is saying something because Survival is not in a great spot. Warcraft logs will show that right now as of time recording this. Yeah, I don't know. They're still fun to play. I think you can definitely bring them. You got Mage utility, but usually if you're going to bring a Mage, you bring an Arcane Mage most of the time. Obviously, if you're raiding with guild members and you have you know, part of the guild, they play better Frost, but play better Fire. You know, that might be better to do, especially if they know the class better, they know the rotation. Arcane is kind of a niche spec. I think they're really good, really viable. Also really fun. If you haven't tried them out, you should. But I do think they're miles above Fire and Frost, for sure. Let's go DK next. This is interesting. I think in my Mythic Plus tier list, I ranked Unholy really high. A lot of people did not agree with me. I think with their buffs, we're going to see that this season, but you'll see. I'll show you. But right now, I think Unholy is probably B tier. I think they're maybe mid-low B tier. I think they fall behind on some single target damage. Obviously, they've got good AoE, good single target, but they're not... I don't think they're the same as, you know, a Demon Hunter, for sure, just for the raid utility. Or Elemental Shaman, Demonology Warlocks for tankiness. I mean, they're still really good, but their nerfs really hit them hard. I think, you know, mid to low B tier is accurate, in my opinion. But let me know if you agree with me. Frost DK, I think, is actually above both of these specs. They are below Windwalker Enhanced for sure, according to Warcraft logs. And for my opinion, Frost has actually done pretty well. I've seen better Frost. Every time I've seen a Frost, pick up a Frost DK or Unholy DK, Frost is always above Unholy. Every time I played with them, Warcraft logs show that right now. They do a great job single target. Their cleave is decent. They're in a good spot. I might even argue that they're maybe high B tier. You know, if this will stop glitching up. High B tier, low A. I think Enhance and Windwalker Monks are just insane right now. You also don't bring the same raid utility that these two, but you have grip, so that's really good. I don't know, high B to low A, somewhere in that area. Still in a good spot, just not as good. Unholy struggling a little bit compared to Frost, but I still think they're viable. You can bring both these specs into the raid and do fine. For normal and heroic specifically, for sure. Ret, I think his Ret is like low B tier, maybe even high C tier. I think when they're in their wing windows, they're kind of insane. They pop off. I think you'll see them shine in some lower raid content like normal instead of heroic. You know, they have some bubbles. They have survivability that, you know, other specs might not have. Mobility isn't great. They could bring an aura though that's good for your raid. High C tier, maybe low B. Somewhere around this range. I think they're right around Unholy. I'm gonna say high C tier though, and we'll see how that changes and develops later on in the season. Let's go Devastation Evoker. Okay, Devastation Evoker I think is also C tier. I think that we are seeing them kind of rise up, especially with the buffs they've been receiving. I think that they are better than Beast Mastery and Affliction. I think they just bring great mobility. They've got rescue. They can literally, I mean, literally, I'm saving people from stupid shit, standing in stupid shit with this class. It's kind of wild. Obviously, preservation is better, but really good, actually. But we'll make a tier list about healers here another time. Devastation Evoker, though, really in a pretty good spot. They're falling off on damage for sure. Not quite the same as, bringing the same as the other specs. I think that they do a good job. Like I said, mobility, they can AoE, single target, they can switch between both pretty well. They're not in the same league, I think, as these classes in B. But right below, I would say, for normal heroic. Shadow Priest, I think, is high C tier, maybe even low B tier. I don't know, there's somewhere around this range here. I think Shadow Priest is not in a fantastic position. I think they could use some love, but they're still viable. You can definitely still bring them normal, heroic, whatever you're pushing. Mythic, I think they'll fall off for sure. Still good utility. Stamina buff, you don't have another Priest. I doubt you wouldn't bring another Priest, but if you don't, it's nice to have. But yeah, good damage, good AoE, good single target. Solid spec, just falling behind these other ones. Let's go Warrior next. Ooh. Fury Warrior, I think is, I would say low B. I'd say low B, maybe they're in the same range as these classes right here. They do a pretty good job, you know, staying on their target, got decent mobility, heroic leap, good single target, good cleave, kind of do both for you. Don't bring around the same utility as Havoc Demon Hunter. I'd pick a Havoc over I would just for the raid buff, honestly, over a Warrior, but they're still, you know, very good. You do get the raid buff, obviously, with Warriors with Shout. They're pretty damn close to each other, I think. I think they're both viable for single target and AoE. Fury might even be better than Havoc. I don't know. I would keep Havoc above Fury. From what I'm seeing, and you could get, if you guys disagree with me, let me know in the comments, let me know why, seriously. But I think Havoc's better. From almost everybody I've played with, I think I've seen one Fury Warrior beating Havoc Demon Hunters out. And I've done the raid, I don't even know how many times, over and over again. It's super fun, by the way. If you guys haven't raided, you should. I think Havoc's just falling ahead of Fury right now. Fury's still in a pretty good spot, though. I'd definitely bring him. A viable spec and super fun. I'm loving mine. Fun as shit. Let's go Arms. Gosh, I think Arms is... Man, it's above these classes right here for sure. I think they've been receiving some buffs. They bring the same thing as Furious Shout. I think if you pick a warrior, you take this one. And if you're not already taking a Prot warrior, which you probably will be because they're insane. High D tier, maybe low S tier. They might even be better than Affliction, Beast Mastery, somewhere right around in this range. I'm gonna keep him somewhere there. I'll keep him there. It's still a good spot. A few good damage, good single target, pretty good cleave. You kind of build in one or the other though. Right now with us being able to change our talents whenever we want, I think they could be good. So I would say lower C tier, mid C tier. Hope they get some more love because I want to play my Arms a little bit more. Might anyways. Just freak it. Balanced Druids, I think they're B tier. I think they're low B tier or high C tier. I think they're right above Shadow Priests. I think they still do a great job. Obviously we saw quite a few of them with Mythic Progression for Liquid and Echo, but we're just talking about normal and heroic. And in the 90th percentile, so not probably just your above average player, not a crazy insane player, but I think they're high C tier, maybe low B, and a good spot. Just not as good as we've seen them in the past for sure. I would like to see them rise up. I have seen some of the logs that you got to get Balanced Druid a little over geared. They're pumping numbers like crazy. More than some of these other specs, but I think that's just because they really know their class well. And again, that's a big important thing. If you know your class well, sometimes you'll shine better. You could be maining one of these specs down here, but if you know your class well, you could be outshining a lot of these other classes. Some of these probably, even if they don't know their class that well, they'll just be rising above everybody else. That's just because they're in a really good spot. But I think any of these classes you can play, you're just going to see probably a pretty good difference. If you're really good at destruction, then you got a demonology warlock that's really good at demonology. Demonology's gonna beat you out every time right now. So hopefully we see some more tuning and playing around with that. But honestly, I think Blizzard's doing a great job with balancing and everything like that. Feral, I think they are probably low B. Mark of the Wild, they still bring same as balance, or low C. Sorry. I think they bring Mark of the Wild same utility or raid buff there. They've got good utility, great mobility, obviously, to kill targets, good cleave, good single target. I just don't think they're where balance is. I think the range kind of benefits from that, as we see in most raid. Most of the time range is doing better than melee. This is interesting up here, but rogues are insane, as you guys know. Also, Windwalker Month's enhancement shamans. But yeah, I think that they're falling behind. I think they're right around the same as Arms and Affliction, especially for normal. But they're doing a good job. I've never seen a balance lose to a Feral so far rating, but we'll see if that changes. So, anyways, that's my tier list, guys, for raid in season 1 for Dragonflight, Vault of the Incarnates. I've loved it. Normal heroic's been amazing. I'll do updated tier lists throughout the season if I can. But I'm gonna do a healing tier list. I'm gonna do a tanking tier list. I play all 3 specs, love the shit out of all of them. I mainly tank, so the tanking tier list might be a little bit more in depth, maybe a little more fun there, but I love tanking so much. But this is what I'm seeing. This is my opinion, obviously, and based off Warcraft logs. Let me know if you guys agree with me. Seriously, let me know in the comments if you do. If you don't, tell me why. Like, I've had so many people just don't agree they don't belong there, but you don't tell me why. Tell me why. Tell me why you think they shouldn't belong there. I actually want to know. I care. If you go back in my Mythic Plus tier list, if you haven't watched it, you should, but you'll see all the comments. I'm responding to almost everything I can. I'm responding to the feedback, what people say, why I disagree, or if I agree. It's been super cool to engage with you guys. You guys have been amazing, by the way, for the support. We're so close to our goal of 1,000 subs, so thank you for that. Anyways, thank you guys. Thanks for hanging out. Until next time.